Find the time, freedom, and financial independence you can have through entrepreneurship. Whether you're a buyer, seller, franchisee, franchisor, or a consultant, find everything you need to know about franchising right here. Welcome to the Level Up with Nick Lopez show.
Welcome to the Level Up show with Nick Lopez, where we have the absolute pleasure of learning from thought leaders in business, franchising, and high performance personal development. Today's guest, you know it, most certainly goes without exception. Within the franchise world, she is the go-to expert for coaching high-performing franchise partners, as well as coaching franchisors on support systems and resources for facilitating communities that foster high-performing franchise partners. I'm so excited for this conversation. Frankly, I know I will level up. Today, we have the founder and CEO of AC Inc., Angela Coté. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I was just thinking, is he going to know how to pronounce my name? But I guess maybe you've heard it before. But that the last name I often get, is it Cote? Is it Coté? You got it.
Angela Coté. I would not forget it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here. I always appreciate the opportunity to, chat with the podcast interviewers like yourself and learn more about you and be able to share my insights and just have some fun.
Absolutely. I can't tell you how many events I've been to, and folks have just had incredible things to say about you. But you know how you just watch somebody and you know that they know a thing or two. You've always been that person, at least in my eyes. I have so much respect for the way that you are committed to the franchise space. So, the first question I have for you, most folks, they go around life and they look at McDonald's or Burger King as being those prototypical franchise companies, right? Most people don't realize that, I had a mentor, he told me, as long as it's legal, moral, and makes money, it can be franchised. And that's, even things like home improvement, line painting, painting company. And so franchising is so many things. It touches so many communities. And people don't go around raising their hand saying, oh, I'm going to get into franchising. It has this unique way of finding you. So, Angela, how did franchising find you?
Oh, that's okay. That's a loaded question. So, well, in a way, it's not. In a way, it's actually a really simple one because I was 5 years old when my dad started a franchise company that grew over the years to almost 500 locations. And so I grew up, whether I liked it or not, learning about franchising, just taking it all in, not realizing what I was learning. And actually, funny story, about 10 years ago, and we'll maybe get a little bit more into my journey, I'm sure, but as a franchisee, I was starting to kind of get restless and wanted to do something different and new. And my husband was running our stores at the time. We still had two franchises of the brand that my dad founded, which is called M&M Food Market. And I started going out networking and trying to figure out something different to do. And I was actually hiding the fact, you won't believe this, I was hiding the fact that I came from the world of franchising because I wanted to get away from it, which I'll explain that in a minute, but franchising and then the retail, because I grew up it was a retail frozen food franchise. And so I wanted to do something different. So I would be at networking events and I was I would sort of not say anything about my background because I was trying to find that new thing. But eventually it would come out and I would say, well, my dad's the founder of M&M Food Market. And they're like, well, no, first I would say that I was a franchisee and then, oh, what brand? And then I'd say M&M Food Market. And then they'd say, well, how'd you get into that? And I'm like, all right, here comes the truth. I I just grew up in it. It was my path that I didn't choose, but although I did choose to be a franchisee, so that's another story. But it just kept coming. People would say, "Oh, well, wait a minute. Must know about franchising. Would you meet with me for coffee? I'm thinking of franchising my business, or I've got 100 franchisees, and I'm really struggling with getting the franchisees engaged, and they're not listening to us, and they're not. We don't have a great relationship. How do I fix that?" So it kind of just came back to me. Now, the reason I was saying I was trying to get away from it, I wasn't in the networking world of franchising that most people that I'm in now. I had just been with my own family business exposed to that. And so I think I just needed, as a younger, well, 10 years ago, not that young, but needed to get out and do something different. But in the end, I ended up back in it and creating AC Inc. Long-winded way of saying I was born into it.
Born into it, yeah. Why do you think you never left, or did you have a period of leaving the space?
I did. I mean, there were times over the years, like when I first was getting out into the work world. I worked at one of our suppliers, so a manufacturing company, in their office. And there was a period of time I went and worked at a company that did small business advising. So it was not exactly franchise, but yeah, I think just in the end, like realizing that I had this unique, I didn't think it was as unique as it is to have this background. I didn't realize people said, well, you must know so much about franchising. I was like, I don't know what I know though. Like, what could I possibly bring to people that they don't already know? And people kept saying, well, you grew up, so you've got the franchisor side, you've got having been a franchisee for 18 years, and you've been out in the field supporting franchisees. So I actually had a coach at one point, a business coach that I was working with for my own support, say to me, well, you've got the F3 advantage. So I used that as a branding thing for a little while, like franchisor, franchisee, and field.
Mhm. Yeah, a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
So why create AC Inc? What does AC Inc do, and why did you create it?
Yeah. So as I was going out and doing this networking now in the franchise world, going to franchise conferences and trying to figure out what did I know and what do people need, looking for how I could help, and also getting on lots of calls with people. You start with one person that I might know in the franchise world, and they say, "Oh, you should talk to this person." So I get on a call with that person, and I just researching and asking, and started working with brands, smaller brands, and a little bit of some of the more established brands. And as I looked at what they were looking for and reflected on my experience, it became more and more clear that there was a real gap in that people weren't recognizing, franchisors weren't recognizing that the person in the field, or that can be on Zoom, but the business coach or the field consultant or area manager, whatever brands call them, FBC, that those people have the power to move the needle with franchisees if they're properly coached and trained. And so when I thought back to being in the field myself, so that was part of my journey in the late 90s. My dad, I grew up near Toronto, and my dad was like, well, we've got an area developer out west who needs somebody to go out and help open stores and work in the field. Why don't you go do that? So I do it. And here I was working with, as a 20-year-old female boss's daughter, trying to get these 50 and 60-year-old male franchisees who had invested their $400,000. How do I get them to listen to me? Like, I knew the brand inside out. I knew the ingredients of the product. I knew how to merchandise in the store. I knew how to, organize the back end freezer and give good customer service. But no one taught me, how do you create buy-in to get franchisees to do what they need to do to grow their business? And then having been a friend, after that, I became a franchisee. For 18 years, I was a multi-unit franchisee. My dad was like, why don't you go switch to that side and, go get the financing, go learn what it's like to be on that side. And that's where I saw, oh, the people that are coming to support me now are kind of doing the same thing. They're not really helping me grow as a business owner because they haven't been trained and coached. they're just reverting to compliance and or defaulting to compliance, defaulting with authority, like trying to, just tell me what to do. And that wasn't effective. When our field team would show up, it was like a waste of time. And so between those two experiences, having been in the field, having been a franchisee, and then add on going out and researching and going to conferences, I realized nobody is paying attention to how important that role is. And they're expecting these people that are not trained and coached, and they're putting junior people in that role, or even franchisees in that role, but not coaching them and sending them out to try to get franchisees profitable. So that is how AC Inc. was born. And the work that we do is all around overall, it's our mission is to maximize the impact of field support. And we do that through the education and training of the people in the field. Again, when I say field, we just mean the business coaches or the field, whatever people call them. So it's education. And then the other side is we also go in and implement what we call the strategic growth coaching framework, which we created. And it's like a massive manual of like leveled up. There you go, leveled up coaching. So I'll pause there. That was probably a lot, but that is how I noticed that we needed this because of experience and the market, and then coming up with how can we put this into play, and that was the education and then implementing the framework.
Yeah, your life has been a journey of where you're at now, right?
Yeah, it's classic. You're obviously an entrepreneur, successful entrepreneur as a franchisor, and it's funny how when you meet someone and they're at the stage they're at, you don't realize what they've done to get there. And I'm not saying there's not still tons more to go, but like this is, it's not like this happens overnight, right? We figure things out, we learn, we screw up, right? We hopefully learn from the screw ups, and then we listen to people, and we sometimes have to put the blinders on, right? And just go like, I'm pretty sure that I'm doing the right thing here. And yeah, it's a big journey for sure.
Yeah, entrepreneurship is incredible. It's certainly the American dream. And I love
Mhm.
that franchising makes it available in so many different spaces. And the competitive advantage of a franchise is community, collaboration. And
Yeah.
frankly, that's the competitive advantage of us as humans, right? To create, to communicate, to do it in community. And I just love that franchising fosters that kind of community and training and support, and the franchise relationship matters, and how you go about doing that matters. And you can't just go about winging it, as you mentioned, right?
Mhm.
There's standards to it, there's best practices. um, I love that you were born into franchising. I have four kiddos, between 5 and 9, and I would love
Yeah.
for, now they're just doing athletics and going to school and whatnot, right? Being
Yeah.
kiddos. But one
Yeah.
day I would love for them to get into the franchise space. The best I've been able to do is helping them set up some lemonade stands. And uh, if you ever do that, my tip for you is don't charge an amount. Just whoever comes by for a glass, have the kiddos say, whatever you'd like. How much does it
Ooh, that's
cost? Oh,
smart.
whatever you'd like. And I'll tell you, it's going to quadruple your average lemonade cup sale. So you
That's
get 20,
awesome.
yeah, you get $20, $10, $5, whatever. And the other tip is, use Venmo. So make it really easy. And that's an easy rebuttal. So most of the time, folks will say, I don't have any cash. Oh, we accept Venmo. And no one can say no to that, especially on the rebuttal ask. So,
Yeah. Well,
uh,
also, you know what I have to point out there that's very interesting is that humans in general we are often as business owners, we can struggle with having the confidence to charge what we should be charging, and we see it in franchisees a lot that they struggle with selling the value of the pricing. And that is a great, if you don't mind, I'm going to steal that and I'll quote you on it whenever I say it. But I like that as a way to help people recognize that the value of something is, it's not, that we're leaving a lot of money on the table a lot of the time when we're not confident enough to just ask, like, what do you think this is worth? Not that you're going to tell franchisees to go do that exactly, but that it's a great reminder that our own roadblocks are usually in our mind about pricing.
Yeah, I grew up in the business. I ran it hands on for 12 years. I started when I was 18 back in 2008. I knocked on a lot of doors, and we're a luxury brand. So, uh, oftentimes we're coaching owners on how to charge a premium, how to be the first or
Yes.
second highest price. And, I was giving a fun story of the kiddos in pricing, but the other part of that is the experience, right? The we call it smile lemonade, but it's all about delivering smiles, and it's hot out, and so we're delivering an experience, and it's about that customer experience and the quality of the lemonade, and everything else. But I just am inspired by your family and the franchise system that your father founded and scaled. That's so incredible that you grew up inside of such an incredible organization. I know we're just talking about it, but my gosh, I do not want that feat to be understated. And as an aspiring father of kids that I hope get into franchising and business, it's so neat to see you doing what you're doing and the value that you're bringing to franchising. I know as a franchisor, I certainly appreciate it. And I know how much our franchise partners in the space do as well, because you are truly doing incredible work. If you're a franchisor and you have not talked to Angela, your franchise owners are missing out. So I'm curious, Angela, what's the number one mindset shift you see in franchisees who go from average to elite?
Very good. Before I answer the question, I just have to tell you, can we do this every day? Because you're giving me a really nice ego boost. It's
Let's
such a
go.
treat to hear the nice things you're saying. I just want to thank you for that. And it's we just keep plugging away with the work we do, and to hear your compliments are really cool. So thank you for
Oh,
that.
yeah.
Um, so as far as the mindset shift for a franchisee who goes from, like, I think you said average to high performer, basically.
Exactly. That
Yeah.
mindset shift.
That mindset. Yeah. So it's a couple things I would like to touch on here. One is that and this is what we are all about at AC Inc. And this is again because when I was being supported or coached, it wasn't about helping me be a better business owner. It was about me operating in my business. They weren't helping me with how to get out of working in my business to work on it. So the mindset shift is when we help franchisees understand the value of thinking like a business owner. So rather than an operator stuck working in their business, the one doing the painting, the one with the truck, we want to we want to see them have that mindset shift that, wait a minute, that's not being a business owner, that's just, I just bought myself a job. How do we get them to think like a business owner? So that mindset shift um, comes usually from, if it's something we're helping, it usually comes from helping them see what that can look like. Often a franchisee that's stuck in the operations is just, it's fear, right? It's fear or the unknown. If they don't know how to get there, then, and that's why we coach coaches to work with them on that. And what does it look like when we can't visualize something and we struggle to measure something? It's really hard to go there. But if we can show a franchisee that this is what it would be like this is how you do it, and this is what your life, these are the things you'll be doing as a business owner, like going out into your local market and being the face of your brand, and here's how to do that, so we make it fun for you. Here's how to be a better leader so that you can empower your team. So it's really helping them see the difference. The other thing is the growth mindset. We talk a lot about that when we're coaching coaches as well, to work with franchisees on that. Well, it's really intertwined, because it's, again, I use a line all the time. I didn't make it up, but I say it a lot. A confused mind says no. So when we're not clear on what we need to do or what it's going to look like, I think that's where that growth mindset gets roadblocked. So the franchisees that are the high performers have adopted a business owner mindset. They take risks. They have to take leaps of faith to empower their staff, and get out there. And actually, I have a story about that if you want, because stories are usually fun.
Right.
Do you want me to I'll give you a story.
Yes,
So
please.
when I was a franchisee, we had our wedding booked for, it was going to be 6 months after we opened our first store, and because we had planned to get married before we decided to become franchisees, so we knew we were
Okay.
going to have to leave our baby, that this $400,000 investment, we were going to have to leave it so we could go get married in Ontario where I grew up, and then go on a honeymoon, and we didn't want to jeopardize that time. It was important, so we knew we had to leave our store. And so when we left, we're like, was I worried? Yes. Was it hard to relax on our honeymoon? Yes. And then did something go wrong? Yes. So when we came back, they didn't even tell us, but the freezer had shut down. So the freezer had shut down, which was holding like $60,000 worth of product, and they didn't even call us. It was back in the year 2000, but we did have a mobile flip phone that they could have called us on. We had for emergencies, and they didn't call us. And they were so proud that they handled it themselves. And they were like, yeah, we did this, we took care of it. And from then on, we realized, oh my gosh, this business I'm not indispensable. And I need to learn to do more of that. So that was the turning point for me as a franchisee, to go from, I have to be the one in the business. If I'm not mopping the floors, how can I expect the team to? I have to demonstrate hard work. I'm worried that they're going to do something wrong. From that mindset to, oh, I can trust people, I can empower them. And it forced that to happen. And then we went on to open a second and a third store because of that, being able to go through that. So that's what epitomizes like a growth minded owners, when they start to let go and start to be able to delegate, but hold people accountable and do all the good things that good leaders do.
Right. Yeah, team building can be uh, unknown, but that's why a great franchisor has the roadmap for you to execute on in terms of growing and scaling your team and finding that help. Who's a good fit, and what are the items that they should be focused on in terms of behavior, KPIs.
Mm-hmm.
That creates clarity, right?
Yeah.
And as a business coach, you can focus on more of the fear and execution and vision, versus being the owner operator, as you put it, buying yourself a job.
Yeah. Instead of building an asset.
Hmm. So, Angela, you've worked with hundreds of franchisees. What's the hard truth most franchisors don't want to admit about why some franchisees underperform?
Yeah. I feel like there's a little bit of a loaded question. I love it. Well, I think, I'll tell you this. So I facilitate, as you know, I facilitate free roundtables for franchisors, and we have two categories of for the franchisors. We also have a field support roundtable and a marketing team member roundtable. But for the franchisors, which is like the executives or the founders of the, or the ops leaders, there's one with under 100 locations open and operating, and then there's one with over 100. And the difference I see in the one big difference I see in the franchisors at the more established one, which we call operations leadership, is that they have accepted and really wrapped their head around the fact that the franchisees, that they need support. They stop thinking, like, the franchisors, they get over this idea that, oh, why won't my franchisees just do this? Instead, they embrace the idea and go, how can I support them? And how can I help them? I hear more venting in the operations foundations roundtable, which is for under 100 units. It's more kind of venting like, like I just, there's so much frustration. But then the more established franchisors are saying, no, like they invested their life savings. We owe them support. Now, what the problem is that people get into is that support, we're not talking about doing everything for them. We're talking about teaching a man to fish rather than giving him fish. And that's what we teach at AC Inc. is how can we teach the coaches to teach the franchisees how to be more empowered. So the franchisor that really gets it understands that we need to have boundaries, we need to have accountability, and we do need to provide them with certain tools and resources. We need to motivate them based on their goals and what they want out of this business and their why. And if we do all that, that's how we're going to see success, rather than going, but we gave them the system, we told them what to do, and it's not working. So hopefully that answers the question. I sort of took a bit of a different angle on that.
Yeah, I love that response because, having gone through it personally, getting over that 100 location mark awarded,
Mm,
I I I can personally relate to being a founder and understanding the business so well that it's hard to trust a franchise partner that's number two, three, four, five, six, seven, those initial owners that are prone to being more entrepreneurial. They should. They're taking a risk at
yeah.
the infancy of the brand. They're the legacy owners, but they invest in that right to be a part of the solution and to be more entrepreneurial. And that's appropriate in that season. But as you continue to scale, you need more of following the playbook. It doesn't need to be, you know, necessarily pioneered in those initial legacy days with those owners. That can create a very personal, as you mentioned, venting, and that you're in the trenches as you're establishing the brand and the organization. And so I always say, hey, the sooner you can create an FAC, the better, because that starts to standardize and make it about the customer instead of making it about, hey, me as the franchisor and hey, me as the franchise partner. Rather, it's, hey, let's just talk about the customer. And we have we're going to build our own process and way for how we standardize collaborating over the customer. And the sooner we get started on that in an FAC format, it'll catch up and scale with us as we continue to level up and grow as an organization. And but that is a season to be just so appreciated. Enjoy that aspect of the journey, whether you're a franchisee or a franchisor, but understand that's the season that you're in. And it's so critical to lean on collaboration and yeah, try to look above the forest, because when you're in the trees, it's hard to remember that simple truth, Angela. So thank you for making it so human. And that's exactly what this is about. It's about relationships and the relationship between the franchisor and franchise partners. So, Angela, I wanted to ask you this next question. What's a game changing support strategy franchisors can use today to activate a stuck or struggling franchise partner?
Mm. I feel like it's going to sound obvious maybe to some people, but it seems like we all need the reminder. The number one thing we teach is to find out what would motivate the franchisee, like, and why did they originally start the business. Let's go back to the beginning and ask you, like, think back when you decided to become, say, a line painting franchisee. What were you thinking? Like, were you excited to be your own boss or to have the flexibility? What was it, and what would you be hoping that if you achieved, certain financial goals, you would be able to do because of that? So is it maybe work less? Is it maybe put your kids through college someday? What are you working towards? And we check in on is that still motivating you? Okay, so then so you're stuck. Let's look at, depends what they need to be doing that they're not doing. But one of the most common things we talked about being stuck in the business, but is getting them out of the business and into their local community and energized about being out there and being the face of the brand. So it's okay, you're stuck. Let's first start with, why are you even doing this? Or have you lost that? Because if you have, then we can part ways. I always say you can grow. Like, there's three options: grow, sell, or close. There's no be stagnant, because being stagnant, being stuck and not trying, the competition's gonna come and eat you alive. It's not gonna work. You've got to either grow or sell or close. So we, as a franchisor, we can help you with either three of those three options. But it's kind of giving that, like, and it's having a bit of a hard conversation for sure. Hey, like, why are you here? And do you recognize, as a franchisee, that you have a responsibility to the brand to represent well in your market? And if you aren't doing that, and also, even if you're just sort of being complacent, you're tying up a market that maybe someone else could come in and really leverage and help the overall brand grow, which helps other franchisees, in the overall brand. So it's a combination of, like, some empathy and compassion with, like, why, what are you doing here? What's going on? Combined with, okay, then if we can reinvigorate that, what are the action steps? Let's work on those together, by the way, instead of just, I'm going to tell you what to do, because that doesn't work. Let's coach together. Let's empower you. Let's teach a man to fish. And then let's hold you accountable to the goals that you said you wanted to achieve. So yeah, that just summed up everything we do in a nutshell for you. At
Right.
AC, it's all about that.
Yeah,
And being proactive.
sales
Being proactive.
proactive and
Also, just that's a
yeah.
proactive approach, right? Like, as opposed to reacting. Oh, you're stuck. Well, go do this. Just telling them what to do. And no, let's think forward.
Right. Yeah, it's not about being reactive. That proactive approach is critical. KPIs are critical. That's going to keep you more proactive than reactive. My gosh, if you're ever in that position where you're more reactive and somebody is stuck or underperforming in business in general, right? Not just franchise partners, but sales is king. And so
Yeah.
if I'm hearing what you're saying, it's, hey, you have to act, do not
Yeah.
freeze, act,
Yes.
right? And
Yes. I
if you're
love that. Yeah.
if
Yep.
you're ever uncomfortable, don't freeze, keep moving. You have to keep moving, never freeze. And that's
Yeah.
critical. And so more times than not, the movement that should be done is in lead gen, in sales, and
Yeah.
getting into your community, as you mentioned. And you need
Yeah.
that fuel, which is your motivation, your why you got into this. Hey, it may have changed, it might have shifted, and that's great. But let's crystallize it, because that clarity will allow you to follow the model and execute specifically on the sales side. Again, leads are like oxygen, right? They
Yeah.
are what fuels your business, and it starts there. That's where the sales starts. So start getting out, shaking hands, and getting those leads into your pipeline. Next question, Angela, is leveling up a franchise more about accountability or belief, and how do you engineer both?
Leveling up a franchisee. Is that what you said?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I guess it kind of goes back to what I was just saying a minute ago. So, I think it's both for sure. And so what we see is when we help the franchisee really think about what they want, then they're intrinsically motivated, and that's the belief, right? And then, believing that they can do it, we help them break down the steps, or we teach how to help a franchisee break down the steps. And then but without accountability, it's not, it could go nowhere. But what we find is that they want to be held accountable when it's going to help them get what they want. So accountability is such a critical part of the equation, but that isn't about, like, going in and saying, you didn't do this. It's like, hey, last time we met, we talked about you wanted to achieve this. In order to get there, we reverse engineered some steps. You said you were going to attend, two networking events, put out X number of lawn signs, go to X number of businesses and cross promote. You didn't do any of that. What's going on? And then we work together to figure out what got in the way and how can we make it more achievable next time.
Right. Yeah. Accountability is not about compliance, right? It's about any entrepreneur, anybody that's executing and working towards their goals. It's about that accountability and simply having that gym coach, right? Hey, I need to get there at 6 because my gym coach is waiting on me. And I definitely want to eat well this week because my gym coach will see the scale.
Yeah.
And why am I doing all this hard work, right? I want to lose the weight. I want to get fit. And
Yeah.
so much of franchise relations is that a relationship, and having empathy for the franchise partner, putting yourself in their shoes and realizing that, look, they're probably embarrassed, right? And
Yes.
so compliance is silly, and that's going to create avoidance. It's more empathy and understanding that, hey, if there's some underperformance here, this person's probably a little embarrassed. They're a little down about it. So, go in with an approach of, hey, let me put my arm around you. Let's pick up the pieces here and let's get back to our relationship. Let's get back to your vision and let's put it all together and let's get back on the train. And hey, personal things happen, professional things happen. Maybe there's some disappointments or setbacks in the business. Life happens, but as a franchisor, that's the one of the most critical parts of support. Again, community, right? And
Yeah.
it's not just a franchisor. Usually it's a peer or someone in a cohort group or a
Yeah,
mastermind
those are
within the
good.
organization. And usually it's a coach facilitating those conversations. So, it's usually not even a coach directly. Maybe it's a combo. Now I'm doing your job, Angela, but such a fun topic. I do want to ask you another question. What separates the visionary franchisor from the burned out babysitter?
Yeah, well, another $1 million question, I think. Um, I'm going to go back to, again, wrapping, like what I was saying earlier about wrapping your head around the fact that you will be more successful as a franchisor when you recognize that your responsibility, I don't even want to say it's your responsibility because it's not really in the FDD, in the franchise agreement. You're not responsible for their success. But if you recognize that you have a big part to play in that and that there are things you can do to change that, when you accept that and stop muscling through, that's where you're going to become, be thinking more visionary. Innovation, obviously, the way that we a big part of, as I mentioned, I think it was when we were chatting before, I'm not sure if it was when we were recording, but the recognizing that traditional support wasn't working, like just answering questions for franchisees and that sort of thing. Franchisors that we see that are being progressive with the way that they're supporting franchisees, investing in coaches and getting the coaches the proper skills. Those are visionary because they see that this is what's going to work. So that's a big one. And I think, again, it's the mindset of the franchisor. Also, a big key success factor that I see for franchisors that do well is when they truly love people. Like, you I see franchisors that are struggling. They've got like 10 franchisees and they're like, I just don't like coaching franchisees. Oh, and they're like, they call me and, like they don't want to sit where that's like a major red flag. So to be a visionary that's really growth focused. And my dad was so good at that. Like my dad was known, I say was because he sold the business about 12 years ago, but as a leader of the company, was known for really loving and being curious about people. So I think those are a couple things.
Hmm. Yeah, being curious about people, being genuine about that curiosity.
Mm.
As you were talking, I was thinking about, as a franchisor, it's certainly not your obligation to ensure somebody's success, right? But it's your responsibility because they entrusted you to help them in their business ownership journey. And so, yes, certainly not an obligation, but most certainly a responsibility. Angela, you talk a lot about franchisee performance, but what's the performance scorecard for a great franchisor?
I would say what kind of metrics are on the scorecard? Is that
Right?
yeah? So I would well there we're very obviously on the at AC Inc. on the operations focused side. So there's definitely some metrics that come around like with recruitment process and all of that. But on the operations side, I would say a big one would be just franchisee satisfaction. I love like FBR, the Franchise Business Review, what they do with surveying franchisees. If you've got satisfied franchisees, and it's not just about profitability because they could be profitable but not satisfied, or not like they could be happy and not profitable, but I guess happy or satisfied. But at the end of the day, that I would say a scorecard thing would be, so their satisfaction. I would say engagement. I would measure engagement. How what percentage of franchisees are showing up to all team call, like all system wide calls? What percentage of franchisees are showing up to their coaching calls with their field coach? I would also go with franchisee overall profitability. What per like overall percent? What is the number, and then what percentage of your franchisees are profitable? I know I said earlier that a minute ago that not like their satisfaction is a piece, but also the profitability on its own is a piece. Because if they're not profitable, you need to focus on that because you're going to have trouble. So yeah, on the spot, those are my quick thoughts that came to mind.
That's a great list.
Okay, good because
That's
I
great.
just made it up.
Right?
Yeah, it was a quick like. I don't think anybody's ever asked me that. It's a really good question. I guess one other thing would be team satisfaction, like team satisfaction, especially the people in the field and the marketing team, the people that deal with franchisees the most. And then like, I guess another one would be retention of team members, but also timeline that franchisees stay in the system as well. Because or oh, you got one number of franchisees becoming multi-unit. Sounds like you're doing great at that at Lime Painting, so that would be another one because that's a sign, right? If they're happy, they wouldn't buy another territory if they weren't satisfied and profitable. So
Right.
yeah,
They're working out of the business, they're starting to work on it, they're scaling, they're investing in more territories. Absolutely. That is certainly a great indicator. Angela, that is a really solid list for being put on the spot. I love putting you on the spot
thank
because,
you.
hey, just greatness happens. So, final question for you, Angela.
Okay.
Why do you love franchising so much?
I think it's because I love people. I don't, everyone thinks, oh, I'm an extrovert and all that. I do like my downtime and my alone time and all that
Uh-huh.
as well. But I think I'm just really curious about people and fascinated by it. And I guess because I got to see the impact that M&M Food Market had over the years on people's lives, and I'll never forget the time we were at a franchisee conference and there were almost 500 franchisees in the system, and my dad got emotional on the stage just saying like, you are my family, like this is a one bit. I know we have to be careful when we call franchisees family and all that, but anyway, I think it's it gives me a chill to think about the impact that you can make and offer people opportunities to be business owners. Having been a franchisee, I can't believe how much I learned. It just provides such a great opportunity for people. So I definitely, I hope that more people understand that franchising is a great avenue to a great path to go down to, get control of your own destiny. It's not easy, it's hard work, but the systems are there, and follow the systems. That's the recommendation for anybody that is thinking about it. But yeah, at the end of the day, I think it's my curiosity and love for people and the impact it makes.
Wow. Well said, Angela. That doesn't surprise me, though. I certainly leveled up on this show.
Mm.
If you do hit that subscribe button down below, it's how I'm able to continue to grow here on the Level Up Show and bring thought leaders like Angela on to share their life of experience at clearly a super high level. Your father is such an inspiring individual. You're such an inspiring person. Angela, thank you for everything you do. thank you so much for being on the show. And if anyone would like to get in touch with you or learn more, how can they do that?
Yeah, so definitely go to our website, check that out, www.fieldcoachexperts.com. Or find me on LinkedIn. That's probably where I'm most networking, hanging out. So just look for Angela Coté and look for red. Just like you with the lime, for me, it's look for red. We also have a business page, AC Inc. on LinkedIn as well.
Angela Coté with AC Inc. You heard it here on the Level Up Show. Thanks again. And as always, level up.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Level Up with Nick Lopez show. Remember, it's never too late to get started on your entrepreneurial journey. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share if you enjoyed today's segment. Catch us again next week and visit limepainting.com for more of the Level Up with Nick Lopez show.